control. Breach in 5, 4, 3.
What's up, guys? I am Uncle Freedom, coming to you on a glorious and well-deserved day off. And as we have now entered into May, and for those of you that saw the latest Instagram video, we're going to do some Stop the Bleed stuff because it is, after all, Stop the Bleed month. For those of you that would wonder why I would have this sudden interest in medical, well, I am a federal TACMed instructor, which means I teach tactical medicine or tactical emergency casualty care to law enforcement officers, first responders, concerned citizens, people that wish to know more or be able to do more, and how to use the stuff that we would see inside of a standard IFAK. Now, here's the deal. When we talk about that emergency response, right? Tactical combat casualty care, tactical emergency casualty care. When we start talking about these things, there is a piece of gear that is an inevitability, and that is your IFAK. Now, I have been asked this recently. I have seen these online recently, which is kind of prompting for me doing an actual IFAK video and not just the next two videos. And that is, what is an IFAK? Because I've seen that. What goes in it, right? An IFAK is an individual first aid kit. Your IFAK is meant to be used on you, either by yourself, on yourself, or by somebody else on you so that you don't take a room temperature challenge. That's what an IFAK is for. Pretty simple stuff. In the military, so all the way back when we were dressed like grandma's couch, this is a IFAK holder. I don't have this one built out. This thing sucks. This insert, money. I will buy these typically to get my hands on the insert because I can use one of a dozen standard other pouches that I would have and actually build out my IFAK inside of a actually pretty good little containment area. But this is back when I got my start with an IFAK, because prior to this, in the early 2000s, we were issued like a cravat and what was known as an emergency bandage. We learned that there were far better options, and that is where we started seeing things like that. So why do you need an IFAK? Here's the deal, man. You can see this is clear. If you are a firearms person, you need an IFAK because this thing puts holes in things, right? Either what we mean to, if you have a negligent discharge into something you shouldn't, or if you end up in an actual encounter where you needed this active part of the gunfight, you will need medical. Absolutely. I mentioned this as a part of fighter mindset or an uncomfortable truth of gunfighting. Medical is a much more used, highly important part of things because here's the deal. If you win the fight and then die because you didn't have something as simple as a tourniquet, well, guess what? You may have succeeded, but you have also failed at the same time. So where should you put your IFAK? That is a very personalized question based upon the gear which you have with you. If you have a sling bag, having an IFAK in a sling bag, something built like this. This one lives on my range bag. This one goes on an ankle. This one goes in my pocket. There are a ton of ways to do that. We could run something like this. This is a tactical Taylor medical insert that goes inside of a standard mag pouch. There are options and ways in which to do this, but you have to find the one that works for you because much like having a concealed carry firearm that may be too big for you because you thought it looked cool, if you're not carrying this doesn't do you any good. If you don't have this with you, this is useless. You don't have time to go back and get it. You have to figure out how to carry it, what's going to work for you. I can tell you, I've run them on belts, I've run them on carriers, I've run them in cummerbunds, I've run them on bags, attached to bags, inside of bags, around my ankle, in my pocket, like you name it, I've done it. And I have found ways that work for me. So what goes into your IFAK, right? So when we build an IFAK, we are building an IFAK built around something known as the MARCH algorithm, M-A-R-C-H. The M stands for massive hemorrhaging. It's number one because if you can't keep bright red stuff in the body, you will take a room temperature challenge pretty quick. So massive hemorrhaging. Airway, A, that is going to be your airway itself. There are options that exist for airway management that can go in something like this, like a nasal trumpet, a 28 MPA. Here's the problem. This doesn't secure an airway. There's a thing we can do without that. I'm going to tell you about that. Respiratory systems, that's your lungs, right? This sealed cavity in which, your lungs operate, function, and do their thing inside of. If you get a hole in that penetrating trauma that goes into the thoracic cavity and breaches that vacuum chamber your lungs live in, your lungs will stop operating at full capacity or altogether, depending on which side. That is where we see something known as a tension pneumothorax. You can also see certain signs and symptoms on the outside, like tracheal deviation, where the trachea tube starts moving over to the side that has better airflow because it's trying to get all the air. These are things that you can see that would lead you to believe there is a respiratory problem. The most common one is going to be finding the freaking hole in the chest cavity. Next would be circulation, not necessarily in the way you're thinking about it, but this is our first initial touching of shock. That means laying people flat on their back, elevating their feet, increasing their body's circulation so the blood keeps moving around the body. It is also the time at which we start finding other problems, right? Like if I've got a deep laceration on the outside of the arm, maybe that laceration was not life-threatening, the reason we got there, but now I found it, and it's just a problem I need to address. Moving on to H, which is going to be head injury, which are pretty obvious, and heat loss, which leads to hypothermia. Now, why is hypothermia so important when we talk about head injuries and heat loss? Well, so here's the deal. So trauma, massive blood loss, decreases your body's core temperature, which leads to what? Class, hypothermia. Right, very good. Hypothermia causes reduced coagulation cascade, which means that your body's platelets stop sticking together as well because of a decrease in core temperature, meaning that you don't clot as well as you should be clotting, meaning you bleed more, and the more you bleed, the lower your body temperature gets. Heat loss, right? So we have to find a way to address that. And then there's a second part of the March algorithm, which is PAUSE, which is P is pain management, A is antibiotics, W is wound care, which is where we would go address smaller nicks, cuts, things like that. And then S is going to be our second touch of shock, because shock will absolutely kill the person you are messing with almost as fast as blood loss. Once you've addressed these in kind of order, you start with your M, you work your way down. By the time you get to your second shock, you should be pretty well set for them to be transferred to a higher level of care. You are not a field hospital. We are not going to solve these problems in the field. These things slow down clocks so that the person we're working on, or us if that's the person, lives long enough to get to somebody else that's got surgical wards, okay? We're not going to fix it. We're not supposed to fix it. We're supposed to slow it down. So as far as kits go, I've run belts. I've told you guys I have a ton of different kits. So here's one. This one lives on my Everly Stock R1 Bang Bang range bag. This is a standard Black Hawk tear-off IFAK, big bright red handle, loop field. The back of this is mounted to my bag as well. And when I open this guy up, what do I see? I have an organized system inside of this that I can actually see what's in this bag. So I have a Cat Gen 7, I have gloves here, I have a space blanket, I have packing gauze, I have hemostatic gauze, ARS needles, trauma shears, duct tape, hyphen chest seals in the back there, and a 4-inch flat fold trauma dressing. That is a full built out IFAK because I can control massive hemorrhaging, your airway, I can deal with your respiratory system and punctures to the box. I can deal with your circulation by my knowledge and putting you into a shock recovery position. I can deal with head injuries and heat loss because gauze, all of that stuff has to deal with it. And I have my emergency blanket. You will notice I don't have PAUSE in here. And the reason being, PAUSE is a very hard thing for us to deal with because pain management, right? Like once the initial shock of, oh crap, I'm missing something, wears off, it hurts. And I will go ahead and let you know, and if you didn't know this, sorry, this is an uncomfortable part of doing emergency medicine. There is nothing friendly or painless about what I'm going to do to you if I'm trying to save your life, dude. Like if you pass out, you are just a compliant patient that doesn't scream as much and lets me do what I need to do. We can't address pain really in the standard world. Now, somebody's going to be like, I'll give them aspirin. Aspirin's a terrible idea. Class, can anybody tell me why aspirin is a bad idea? That's right. It's a non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug, which means it thins your blood. And if you're already bleeding, giving you something that's going to make you bleed worse, not a good idea. That also falls into the realm of ibuprofen, naproxen sodium, Tylenol, pretty safe. We can do Tylenol. Antibiotics. You do not carry broad spectrum antibiotics, whether that be a Z-Pak or penicillin or Moxil or something like that, Augmentin. We don't carry that stuff on us because we don't have the availability. I know there are some companies like Jace Medical that can do antibiotics depending on how that works. Antibiotics go bad. They lose their efficacy over time. We used to have something in the military that was known as a combat pill pack. That pill pack gave us something that dealt with anti-inflammatory, it dealt with pain, it dealt with antibiotics. There's also horse pills, and people would throw them up a lot of times. And then wound care is basically all that other stuff we found while going through the March algorithm. So if we take a look, we've seen this one right here, right? This is one that I use all the time. One I will carry on duty a lot is this guy. So this is the ankle trauma kit from Dark Angel Medical. So I have hyphen compact chest seals in here. I have a 4-inch flat fold trauma dressing. I have a soft T tourniquet. And then down in here underneath this guy, I have gloves and I have Quick Clot. This allows me to address the major things that kill people really quickly. And I can carry this as long as I'm not wearing shorts and you look like a dork. Pretty simply, just off of my ankle. Another great one that I use all the time, especially when I'm on the range and I'm teaching, are these guys. These are Sore Rescue Med Mags, not an affiliate of the channel. They do know me because they get my money a lot because they make a really neat system. So these are vacuum sealed, fit inside of an AR mag carrier. You can do a hemostatic one. You can do a bleed one. This is what's known as their hybrid IFAK, so it has a little bit of everything I would need in it. It has a hyphen compact chest seal. So when we talk about this, let me back up real quick. So there are 3 things you can do in emergency medicine when you arrive with your trauma kit. That is tourniquet the limbs, seal the box, pack the junctions. So your limbs, right? Protruding parts of the bodies, arms, legs, right? We have brachial arteries, femoral arteries. We have things that if we get holes in them, we have problems in those limbs. Now, this became a thing a lot during the Global War on Terror because what did guys in the Global War on Terror wear? Body armor, right? Which meant we didn't take a lot of rounds into the thoracic cavity, but we did take a lot of crap in the arms. So we would tourniquet the limbs. Packing the junction. So we're talking junctional sites up here on the base of your neck, this area. Put a thumb in it. Kentucky ballistics, right? Wrapped his shirt up, shoved it into the thing, and plugged that jugular vein, right? That's a thing. This is the junctional area. Do not put a tourniquet on this. Your friend will die, and then somebody's going to put you in jail for being an idiot. So don't do that. So we're going to pack those junctional wounds. We're going to pack those junctional wounds with gauze. Second most important thing we're going to carry, aside from carrying a tourniquet, is gauze. This allows us to pack wounds. It's important, right? How do we stop bleeding in an area that we can't cut circulation off to? We have to provide direct, sustained pressure to a bleeding site. You do that with gauze and hemostatic gauze. So this, right, this guy, all right, and then your box, right? So we consider the box anything from waist level up to about here, cut off at the arms, this whole area, including your back. That's what we call the box. That is where all of your internal organs live. If you have holes in those, that's a problem. We seal those. We seal those with something known as an occlusive dressing. An occlusive dressing is a chest seal. You can kind of see the chest seal right here behind it. Where did I just put that Dark Angel? You can see them right here on this guy. So these are hyphen vent compact chest seals. I really like these. They are small and compact. They are ultra sticky. If you open these up and they stick to themselves, you might as well throw it away and get another one. They will always come in a twin pack because odds are if it went in, it came out. So we're going to need to seal both sides. We're going to seal the box, pack the junctions, tourniquet the limbs. Repeat with me, class. Tourniquet the limbs, pack the junctions, seal the box. One more time. Tourniquet the limbs, pack the junctions, seal the box. You are now ready to use this stuff. So we talked a little bit about how we're going to pack junctions with these. I showed you guys chest seals for sealing the box, and we all know what a tourniquet looks like. And if you don't, you're really going to need the next video that comes out. But I really like these. I think these guys do an excellent an excellent system. These are not very expensive, but this guy comes with a 4-inch ETD, or an emergency trauma dressing, or the Israeli pressure bandage, or the H-bar bandage, the Olays. There's a bunch. You see, I have compressed gauze, chest seals, and then that. And then this guy comes with ARS needles. That is for treating tension pneumothorax. Pay attention, class. This part's important. If you do not have advanced medical training, in your state, responder laws do not allow you to shove a 3.5-inch catheter that is a 14 gauge or larger needle into somebody's thoracic cavity to vent air. Don't do that. Don't do that. I know you watched a YouTube video, and I'm super excited you're interested in it. You need different certs than that. Your Good Samaritan law doesn't help you if you go to stick this 3.5-inch long needle into their chest cavity, you screw up and hit their heart. Don't do it. Same thing with nasopharyngeal airways, right? These things look cool, and yes, they can assist in managing an airway, basically, from the nose. There are other options, supraglottic airways like king tubes and iGels. Not going to go into those here. That is not something you need to be screwing with unless you've been to school. Yes, I will tell you, you need training to use those. Just trust me on that. But what can we do to manage an airway on somebody, since this doesn't really work? And what are we worried about in managing an airway? We're worrying about things obstructing an airway as we're trying to work on this person. Vomit, blood, their tongue. A good example is to take somebody and roll them into the recovery position. I'll leave a picture of a recovery position up here. Roll them into the discovery position. They'll kickstand over. If they vomit or blood or something comes out of their face, it will drain out onto the ground and they won't choke to death on it. Because it would suck to do all that work and then they choke to death because you laid them flat on their back. I know, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? We're going to treat shock and we're going to lay them on their side. Remember what I told you. It is wound dependent. Shock can kill them. Choking to death on your own blood kills you faster. Note to self. All right. So when should you carry your medical kit? So we looked at basic what's in an IFAK. If I had to give you one option for each one. Okay, so here's your tourniquet. Done deal, right? We know we need that. Tourniquet. We need a thing of gauze. These two things, I can solve a lot of problems with just these two things. Sure can. If we look at something like the Live the Creed Pocket Trauma Kit. It's very small. I have some boo-boo stuff over here. You will see some tan gloves right there. You will see a small thing of Quick Clot, and then you will see a SWAT T tourniquet. SWAT T stands for Stretch, Wrap, and Tuck Tourniquet. You know what that's really good at and really bad at? It's not very good at being a tourniquet. It's really terrible if you got to do it to yourself, but it makes an exceptionally good swath, sling, or pressure bandage, makeshift pressure bandage. So gauze, and how do we stop bleeding, class? Direct pressure to the area that bleeds. We do that by getting things inside of the hole and fixing them. Trust me, I got a whole video coming up on that, along with some stuff you guys can practice with. So we're going to need gauze. We're going to need a tourniquet. We're going to need hemostatic gauze. I would say need it, though if you cannot afford the $60 thing of gauze, buy more of these instead. It's not as important as you think, and I'll tell you why in a different video. I got to break this up, otherwise this thing will be like 4 hours long. You do not need an ARS needle. I'm going to tell you right now, you don't need it. You don't need a nasal airway. You need to learn to put people in a recovery position, because you shoving things down somebody's face, especially if they have an injury you didn't see, could be a problem. Also, don't go sticking 3.5-inch needles into people's thoracic cavities unless you've got the training for it. Outside of those two things, chest seals. Those are your next big one, right? Because chest seals are super easy. It's a giant sticker. Find the hole, wipe hole off with gauze, stick thing on hole. Good stuff. If you have the wherewithal, make them breathe out, press down, and then seal it in there so you don't trap air inside of the cavity more than is already in there from the hole. And something else that you should have in your stuff. Here's the thing. These make a really great barrier against all things nasty, right? That's why we wash these things. Gloves are important. I will say carry gloves. However, these super cool ultra tactical black gloves ain't it. Don't freaking carry these. I'm going to tell you why. So when we are treating a casualty of some kind, sometimes the wound is very obvious to us. Like there's a freaking hole in their arm and it's spraying stuff out across the room, right? Pretty obvious reason. Hole in the leg, spraying stuff across the room. Obvious reason. Hole in chest. Obvious reason. But what if I told you that mud, dirt, blood, all this stuff, there's tons of crap going on? Well, you need to rake that body to find injuries. So when you see it, I've seen it taught this way, which is where you grab your hands and you rake down the person's chest and back, right? This is the problem. What's in between my fingers? A gap, right? Well, the hole's that big and my fingers go like that. I missed that hole. So take your hands, put them over the top of each other. Now we have more stuff and we're going to rake like this. All over the body. Get up in there. Make really close, friends with your people. If you weren't close before this encounter, you will be afterwards. If you do your job right, they'll live, and then y'all can be best friends after it's over with. Rake and find those holes. Now, what if I told you we were in a low light environment, or it was dark, or you didn't have optimal lighting? If I have on black gloves and I pull my hands out, I can't see blood on these, man. Fact. Ask me how I know. So that means there are a few options outside of black. You can do the standard blue, right? I don't like the blue ones. To be totally honest with y'all, I don't like the blue ones. I am a big fan of the Bear Claw, which is this tan color. These are also very, very thick. These are made by North American Rescue. Or if you're on a budget, Firm Grip at Walmart. These orange ones right here, these are super thick. These are excellent. If I pull my hands out, I can see blood on my hands. Orange gloves. Orange gloves, tan gloves, whatever floats your boat, man. Just don't let them be black. Because you can't see blood when you pull your hands out. And if it gets darker, it just becomes a whole new set of problems. So, and, I've told you guys, like, hey, you should carry this stuff on you all the time. I have tourniquets mounted everywhere at work, but this is something that goes with me. This is usually in a cargo pocket. This is a North American Rescue EDC wallet. I built mine out my way. So this is a very standard affair, elastic strapped. I have a 4-inch ETD here, emergency trauma dressing, pressure bandage, Israeli bandage. Gloves, I have Quick Clot. This is the law enforcement version of Quick Clot. It's not the cool combat gauze. Well, it does say combat gauze, but it's not the cool military one. You know the difference between the cool military one and this one? This one is in a black package, and the other one is in a green one. They're the exact same freaking thing. The only place I'll tell you there is a difference is there is another version of Quick Clot that you will see. Do I have one laying around here? Right? You'll see this. See this all the time in like outdoor stores. This is a problem. This is 24 inches of packing gauze. This is 4 yards of packing gauze. This is not a lot of packing gauze. You may think, so you look at this little brick, you're like, man, that's a little brick. This is 4.5 inches by 4 yards. It's one of these guys, man. This is folded up. This is a lot of gauze. So when we have, that is actually what comes out of here, by the way. You have to, it takes a lot of gauze to pack a hole, man. I'm going to be honest with you. And then in here, I also have my hyphen vent compact chest seals, and then my flat fold ETD, which I'll show you in a different video what the ETDs look like, because we'll break them all out. This is just an overview of IFAKs. Trying to learn y'all some stuff. But I carry this. I mean, you could break this guy down even smaller, just having the chest seals and the ETD and maybe the gauze. But I like having the gloves and stuff. And I will typically have this in my backpack if I'm not at work. Like that stuff. I carry this smaller one when I'm not at work. This has like a 3-yard piece of Quick Clot as SWAT T. That's enough for me to do a lot of damage. Just because I can make it work doesn't mean you can. I have a ton of time in emergency medicine. I was EMS for a long time before this. I will tell you that practice, just because I can make it work, is more a testament to how good I am at my job, not the equipment. So again, we've gone over the black gloves, we've gone over raking the body, all that fun stuff. So now that we've talked about that, stay tuned, because the next video is going to be on tourniquets: the what, the why, the how, the who, the what, the when, the where. Things that should never be considered as tourniquets. Please don't do it. And some stuff that's really good. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Welcome to Stop the Bleed Month. Hopefully this helped you. If you have questions, please reach out to me. I will help you out. I will help you find everything you need. And if push came to shove, I will mail you stuff. Like, it is that important. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Until next time, I'll see you later.